Hi, Daisy. Monochrome looks okay here. Of course, that's an easy one. Looking at complementary, I am getting cyan and orange. So those wouldn't be exact complements. The blue you're pointing to on the wheel does not seem like the blue the color picker's showing. I think it's a straight cyan. Now, looking down to triad, well, let's see, to have the steps 8 apart, you'd need to be using the green that's 2 from cyan. And the green in this one isn't showing to be a cyan green. And lastly, in analogous, you seem to point to a red-orange, but I'm not turning up that, strong red anywhere in here. I do think that you've got some tones or shades of yellow, however. Well, hi, VA. It looks as though you're getting a handle on posterize. If you saw my note to you, I was saying that I think it'd be best to posterize the image before applying the puzzle motif on top, and perhaps you've done that. Looking at all of these, they all seem to be more or less a triad, red, green, blue. Although perhaps not very exact, it's not easy to tell because you haven't given us harmony names or color wheels. Be sure to do that with the final project. Well, hi Cleo. I think I've reviewed this very draft in a draft review, so there is information there as well. You can check for that in announcements. I think your harmonies are largely okay here. My big concern has to do with the way things are coming together for you. I'm not sure why in some instances the line edges are grayed out or why you may have had to redraw lines. Triana, likewise, I believe I looked at the same version in a draft review, so look in announcements for some ideas about this. The one that jumps out as being really just not right is complementary. And, with a complementary harmony, you need to have just two hues. You can use different colors from within each hue. You could use a tint of red and a tone of cyan, for example. Hi, Annie. I got your assignment 3. Looking at that, complementary is good. With split complementary, you need to skip over yellow, orange. So that's a color you wouldn't use. Orange and yellow and then blue. With monochromatic, that's not one hue there. You can probably see that there's a red magenta in there. You want to have just red and only tints, tones, and shades of that. So you could have red, you could have dusty rose, you could have maroon, you could have pink, but they all have to come from the same hue, which would be red. And red magenta is a different hue in its own right. Now, let's take a look at triad. If you want to use yellow, the other colors that are 8 steps from that in both directions are magenta and cyan. If you want to shift things a little bit, using the red magenta and the cyan blue you point to, then you need a yellow green. Hi, Tara. I think I also looked at this very version in a drafts review. That's an announcement, so check there for some more ideas. With monochrome, you need to point to the very blue you're using, and I think that's the blue cyan right next to cyan. And let's take a look at triad. When I take the color picker to that green, I'm getting a yellow green and not the one you point to. Hi, Michelle. It looks as though you've been working on this since last I saw it. I want to focus on the bottom too. First of all, I'm still thinking about this circle in the center background of the one on bottom left. That magenta shade doesn't belong to any of the hues you point to there for your triad. So, I would say get a color that comes from one of those hues. Now, looking at the tetrad, on the other hand, that kind of dull color also making up the center circle, I can see that that's a tone of the very blue cyan that you point to, and it's kind of surprising. I might just choose, it was up to me, choose that bottom right example colors wise to go with for your final, but the decision's yours. Megan, the one that's completely right here, colors wise, is the monochrome one. In the others, you're closing in on proper harmonies, and I'll say you're pointing to colors on the color wheel that do meet the harmony requirements. Let's look at the top left there, split complements. We'll notice that you point to orange and yellow on the color wheel, but I see in that disc behind the turtle there is a yellow-orange, so that's a hue you're not using. You want to just stick with those three hues and tints, tones, and shades of them. Likewise, when I click around in oh, you know what? I was thinking the red one was intended to be monochrome, but since it's analogous, that is correct. When I do click around in complements, I see more than just orange and the blue you point to. So that's one to check on. My Alethea, you have a lot of ideas. You know, you've done more work than was necessary because you could just take one design and use it 4 times for assignment 3. Well, you haven't given us color wheels here with pointers or harmony names. Make sure to do that with assignment 1 in week 6. It looks like top left is monochrome and top right is split complements. Bottom left is complements. And I'm guessing that you mean bottom right to be analogous, although it looks like it's a little bit of a stretch. Remember, if you're doing an analogous harmony, don't skip over any neighboring colors. Use a set that are all side by side. I do like the complementary one, by the way. Well, Anna, it appears that you have the gist of managing the color harmonies. Now, I know you intend this to be a rose. Of course, it's sort of a cubist rose, I suppose. A geometricized rose. I'm thinking let's use the illusion of depth to make this a more interesting composition. So that's to say that light colors and more saturated ones are going to come forward. Perhaps you can use that to your advantage. And what do you think about using a gradient across shapes? Last of all, if you think you want to maintain the stroke, you might like to vary the weight and or the color of it.